Welcome to the All49ers Roundtable. Three of us are here. I'm Grant Cohn, got Maverick Pallack and Jack Hammer. Jose is in the waiting room. He's lurking. You never really quite know where Jose is going to be next. You can't count him out. I feel like he's going to be here any second, and I'm just killing time. But in the meantime, the three of us, will talk Niner topics for the next 35, 45 minutes, starting off with off-season needs because the off-season is here. And free agency starts in boom, there he is. See, that was called filibustering. Hey, how are you? Talk. No, still can't hear you. Why don't you just go without the headset? You're muted.
Hear me now? Can you hear me now?
There you go. All right, boom. Jose's here. We're going to start. Let's rank the top 5 needs the 49ers have heading into the offseason. We talk about quarterback every day for 35 of the 45 minutes of the show, but it may not be the number, or it may be the number one need on the team. I think this is interesting. Let's rank them, starting with Maverick.
I kind of just didn't include quarterback in my rankings when I did this because I just didn't want to talk about it for a little bit. But I went tackles number 1 because I think they have to figure that out, whether it's Trent Williams, Terran Armstead, a draft pick, Alejandro Villanueva, they have to do something there because I don't think Justin School can go 16 games at left tackle. And if they move Daniel Brunskill there, then that hurts another position. And then number 2, I think depending on D'Amico Ryan's defensive scheme, it's either edge rusher or cornerback. And then the other one would be 3 because I think if they invest in a very solid pass rush, that does make it easier to not put as much money in cornerbacks. And you can go Emmanuel Mosley in a rookie or Emmanuel Mosley in another level corner of that, or that a corner of that level. But so I think pass rush might be 2 and then cornerback 3. And then I have interior O-line, whether it's a center or a right guard, and put Brunskill at the other position. And then finally a versatile safety that can allow Jimmy Ward to remain versatile and play wherever he needs to, bounce around. And having another safety that can do that, kind of like Tart could, would help this defense a lot.
That's a pretty good list. I've got cornerback as my number 1, just because they don't have any on the roster right now. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting off at cornerback there. As far as the offensive line, I wasn't sure where I was going to rank them, but I ended up putting them in the top 5. I have offensive tackle at 2 and interior offensive line at 3. You know, they have guys there that they've spent draft capital on. So it's not like they don't have guys right now, but if they could somehow improve, especially on the tackle, over School, that would be a nice thing. On the interior offensive line, they need to get a center if at all possible so that they can move Brunskill away from that position. So I have those at 2 and 3. At number 4, I do have the quarterback position. I think they need to upgrade there with either I don't know about necessarily upgrading, but they definitely need to have a plan going forward into 2022 and beyond. And so that's where the draft's going to come into play. And then at number 5, I have the defensive ends. I think they need to address that position. I think there's more of a need than people are saying. That's kind of drives their whole defense. If they can get somebody that can rush the passer over there outside of to the side of opposite of Nick Bosa, that'd be huge.
Wow, I feel like I'm copying Jack's answers. I think I got the same ranking, like the exact same rankings. Number 1, it's obviously cornerback because they don't have anyone, man. They don't have anyone. I mean, sure, Emmanuel Mosley, but still, even if you re-sign Verrett, and just say for the heck of it, just even if re-sign Verrett and Witherspoon, they still need a corner. Finally, draft one ideally, or even sign one. They need corners. Like that's there's no doubt about it. Number two and 3 is going to be offensive lineman, interior center guard, and offensive tackle. Especially because I'm pretty much steadfast. I think Trent Williams is good as gone. And center position, obviously, not like we needed to hear anything else about Weston Richburg about needing another surgery, but they definitely need an extra starter there to actually solidify that interior, actually take command. And then you just never know about the future of Mike McGlinchey if you ever want to dip into the draft for another future pick. So those ones for sure are the top 3. And then number 4, quarterback. Even if you take care of the offensive line, then they can make do with Garoppolo. But that's where number 4 comes in, because if you have someone more improved, like someone that can actually make a play with his feet, someone who's not afraid to stand in the pocket, someone who doesn't tap dance or does the clapping like Grant likes to do, then all of a sudden the offense raises its ceiling. And then number 5 for sure, edge rusher, because it's just going to be Nick Bosa and nobody. it's just going to be Nick Bosa. I'm not even going to pencil in D4 until I actually see him complete a full regular season game and the injury report comes out and it says he was okay. So until then, it's just pretty much Nick Bosa, who they're just going to double, triple team him until God knows end. So that they definitely need to look for someone there at the draft, or maybe some scrounge piece like a Marcus Golden that Nick loves to rave about, especially since now he's on the free agent market. So that's the way I'd rank it.
Yeah, corner has to be number one because they don't have any on the team. So that's always a need when you lack an entire position group. They got a draft, sign, all kind of stuff. They have Emmanuel Mosley, but he's also a restricted free agent. Who knows? I guess I agree with you guys. The next two would be the two offensive line positions, however you want to rank them. I think I would actually put interior over tackle, but it depends on what you think of Daniel Brunskill. What is he? I don't see him as a center. I see him his best position is tackle, his second best position is guard, and his third best position is center. I don't know if he's like a particularly good starter at any position, but I think he's built like a tackle. I think he's basically a better tackle than Mike McGlinchey right now. But I mean, maybe 285-pound Mike McGlinchey. He's better than that version. So in that sense, the Niners have two tackles in Brunskill and McGlinchey. They're just not ideal. I don't think they have a center. And it's a very important position on Shanahan's offense. It does all the line calls and stuff. So same principle as the cornerback position. There's none. No centers on the roster. It's very important. They definitely need to upgrade at offensive tackle. They definitely need to upgrade at quarterback. And just Nick Bosa isn't enough at DN. I think we got it. I think those are the five needs. Also, safety factors in, but that's like more of an honorable mention. I don't think wide receivers a need. I don't think tight ends a need. They might address these positions, but those are now you're getting into luxury land. So
the only one that you might want to say would be running back, just because of their injury history at that position. Maybe taking a guy like the kid out of North Carolina. He's a pretty good back.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Or Najee Harris if you really like him and you want to be like, I don't know. Do you guys like Najee Harris? What do you guys think of him?
I'm biased, so I love him.
I like all Bay Area guys, but I don't know
him.
about first round.
Is he better than Josh Jacobs, Alabama running back wise?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, I tweeted something out right at the end of the season about the Niners should jump up and get him or take him in the first round.
Dude, it'd be so.
Okay, well, we can talk about him later. Then we can talk about him later. Let's stick with the news from a couple of days ago. The Niners being interested in Teddy Bridgewater. Does he make more sense for the 49ers than Jimmy Garoppolo? Take this any way you want to take it. Jose, why don't you start?
Didn't they say that they were interested in him, and in the report they attached, to be quarterback too, and I just laughed. I think I snorted coffee out of my nose about how funny I thought that was. Like, come on, you're not fooling anyone. What are you thinking? Like, the only thing I thought about it, I'm like, this is a replacement. And then it took me more sifting through Twitter to really get more of my thoughts going. And it's like, yeah, the only real way they're making this make sense is if Garoppolo's gone and they're going to draft a quarterback. Like, they're committed to drafting a quarterback. That's the only way. You're not going to have nearly 440 or more dollars guaranteed tied to the cap because of two quarterbacks that you're going to play. No. So the only way I thought it would have made sense, especially you're getting up capital, which at that point, how much is Teddy Bridgewater even going to cost at this point? What is he going to cost? Like a third, fourth round pick or something like that? Maybe less. That's probably around for sure, like a day 3 pick. That's the only way it makes sense. If you're pretty much steadfast, you're firm, and that, hey, we're most likely going in this direction, that we are going to go with a rookie quarterback. And so I see that's why probably they were tapping on their shoulder. And maybe when the trade, if the pieces fall, man, like I wrote my article yesterday, the pieces fall, they want to trade up for Fields. Hey, Garoppolo, go to New England or Chicago or wherever, and then hey, Teddy, and then Fields or whoever else falls. And I think that's the only way it makes sense, because no way you're going to keep both on the roster.
Yeah, for me, the only way that this makes sense is if they're not going to draft a quarterback this year. And the reason for it is because in order to get Bridgewater, you've got to give up a draft pick. And I don't really want to see them giving up the capital that it would take to trade up for a pick in the first round, like Fields, for example, plus trading a pick to get Bridgewater. It makes sense from a salary cap standpoint, but I don't really like the thought of trading anybody pick away to bring him in and really just have Jimmy Garoppolo number 2.
I don't think as Jose was saying, I don't think acquiring Bridgewater would mean he would be the backup because, as people have said, 40 plus million for 2 quarterbacks is insane. You might as well just sign Dak Prescott for 40 million if you want a quarterback. But having Bridgewater partnered with a rookie, whether that's Fields, Lance, Kellen Mond, whatever, I think does make sense just because Bridgewater and Garoppolo, I think, are very similar, but Bridgewater is cheaper. He would create 5.6 more million, which is important in this offseason when a lot of teams don't have a lot of cap space and the cap space isn't growing like teams wanted it to. And having Bridgewater who can scramble, he scrambled 37 times last season, 7.4 yards a scramble. And I know people, first thing they think of Bridgewater is that catastrophic knee injury he had in 2016, where he also missed 2017. But he's recovered pretty well from it to this point. He's able to run. Garoppolo, if you want to compare, I know people think Garoppolo and Bridgewater are similar mobility. They're not. Garoppolo has 21 scrambles since 2018. So 37 last year for Bridgewater, 21 since 2018 for Garoppolo.
Wow. And
Garoppolo's longest career run is 13 yards. You know what happened when he ran for 13 yards?
Oh my God.
He tore his ACL, his longest career run. So that's a little concerning in itself. So I just think if they in my article coming out, I think tomorrow, if you cut or trade Garoppolo, let's say you trade Garoppolo to New England for whatever, and you acquire Bridgewater, that frees up the 5.6. You cut Nzocha, you cut Weston Richburg, you cut D Ford. If that happens, then you have 27.41 million in cap space essentially, and that's either Trent Williams and Kyle Juszczyk and or Trent Williams and Jason Verrett, or Trent Williams, Kyle Juszczyk, and K'Wan Williams, whatever you want. That's a lot of players you can get just by freeing up that money. So I just would rather go Bridgewater. I still think Jimmy Garoppolo's talented, maybe not the best, but I think Bridgewater would be the same thing but cheaper.
And Bridgewater's hard leg almost fell off, and he's still running more. So I mean,
you just made a great case. You had all your research done, your homework done. Okay, I just have questions because I'm almost sold. You almost got me. What are the Niners trading for Teddy Bridgewater?
Well, if Carolina's going for Deshaun Watson, like they say they are, or they're going for a rookie, then trading Bridgewater, I believe if they trade him, I can give you the exact number. They free a lot more money this year if they traded him than if they cut him. But to me, that's smart for them. If they're going rookie and they're rebuilding, they get that guy so here it is. If they cut him, they have 2.9 million in savings. If they trade him, they get 12.9 in savings. If it's post June, they free up 17. And so to me, that's trading. And why would Bridgewater have any worse value or better value than Garoppolo? If you're getting a fifth for Garoppolo, you should be able to get a Bridgewater for.
So you're saying just trade Jimmy to New England and then take that pick and send it to Carolina.
Essentially, I think that would be.
I like that. That's cool with me. Well, I actually like that idea. What say you two?
I love that one. Yeah, I love that one.
You're not using any of the Niners draft capital.
You're pretty much doing a straight
trading Jimmy for him. Yeah,
face value. Yes, take that.
Of course, Carolina would have to take it, and you'd have to be able to trade.
You're making it seem like it's actually that he brings a little bit more. I mean,
Carolina probably would take it too, especially if they're in line to actually take one of those quarterbacks you're saying. That they would.
I don't know if it can happen, but it's interesting. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a lot of dominoes fall in place.
No, I definitely like that. That's a really good route to go. I never thought of it that way. Yeah, that's a good way of looking at it because there's a positive of the cap savings. That's the biggest piece there. So
yeah, and the scrambling is nice, and the fact that you can just essentially trade Jimmy Garoppolo for him, fine by me. I wouldn't trade a 3rd round pick for him or a 4th round pick for him. I'd almost feel like the Panthers should be trading you a pick for taking that contract off their hands, especially if they don't want him anymore. But the Niners are in the same position trying to get someone to take Jimmy G. Clearly, the Panthers wouldn't be interested in Jimmy G, so it would be kind of like a 3-way deal, but I like it. Very clever.
Probably a conditional rounder, I think more so like, 5th and conditional 4th if he's your starter for X amount of games or something like that. That's the way I could see it.
If they have Deshaun Watson, as you were talking about a couple weeks ago, where would it be smarter to trade for Stafford first or trade Garoppolo first? That conversation we were having. If they get Deshaun Watson first, then of course that does help the Niners, where they kind of have to get Bridgewater's contract off the books, and a trade would do better in that sense. But if Bridgewater's still their starter until they draft a guy, it would maybe cost a little more, maybe a 4th. I still think they could get him for a 4th and get Garoppolo a 4th or a 5th.
All right. Well, that was very clever. Let's see if it works out. I don't see why I can't. Let's see. I mean, the fact that they're in contact with the Panthers about Maybe they're already thinking along those lines. We'll see. All
Definitely
right, let's switch
considering
gears. Name one free agent you think the 49ers should avoid. And like when you think of this, like someone that you think the Niners might be kind of interested in, and you're telling them like avoid, like don't follow your instinct on this one. Do the opposite. Who do you think that player would be?
Well, sticking with Carolina, I know a lot of people want Curtis Samuel, and I would not sign Curtis Samuel because I don't think the 49ers should invest any money at all, at least anything more than $2 million a year on a free agent wide receiver. They have a lot of needs elsewhere. They don't have a left tackle, as we were talking about. They don't have any cornerbacks. They need to re-sign Fred Warner. They need to re-sign 3 defensive ends and a couple interior guys. And what is the offense going to do, especially if Jimmy Garoppolo is quarterback? Is it just going to be 1-yard passes where George Kittle is the deep threat going 8 yards? They need to extend the field. Curtis Samuel would be great in this offense, but it's just a luxury that they can't afford. If they had Jacksonville's cap space, yeah, Curtis Samuel would be interesting, but not with the cap space they have right now.
Yeah, I'm going to actually stick with a guy that's actually was a 49er in 2020. I'm going to say Trent Williams. They need to stay away from him. So many people are, pounding the table for this guy, but for the age that he is and somebody that's probably going to get, over $20 million, it's just not where you want to be spending your money when you don't have a whole lot to begin with. So I would stay away from him.
Okay, I already teased this to you guys before, and it's only because he mentioned it about saying it's Todd Gurley. He's mentioned about playing. He's like, I can see myself playing with the 49ers. That'd be a cool place. He's already floating. He's like tampering with himself with the 49ers. And the only reason why I would see like it actually is a possibility in the world is because, number one, Kyle's not afraid to go in free agency for running back. If he went after Tevin Coleman, why wouldn't he go after Todd Gurley? And at least he knows Gurley kind of fits in a similar system, the way McVay used them. And I feel like in a way, Kyle Shanahan would be the type to be like, hey, let me bring Gurley. Watch this, Sean. Let me make him work what you couldn't do, because that's the way I think his ego could work. And he'd just be way too tempted. And then that creates a scenario where, look, now you're force feeding carries to Gurley. You spent money on him. It's wasting time. Like, why would you do that? Why would you do that? I mentioned in the article once to you guys, like, if they want to decide to sign Todd Gurley, I'd rather them sign Grant to be their quality control coach at that point over Todd Gurley. At least Grant will be more impactful with the 49ers.
I'm a good quality control coach. How dare you?
Hey, you are. You're better than Gurley. You'll be running the rock. I'm giving you credit.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Todd Gurley's actually a really good call. When he was a free agent last year, I was like thinking the same thing. I was like, don't do it, Kyle. I know you want to. I know. And then he went to the Atlanta instead. I'm going to stick with basically Jose's line of thought, but I'm going to go bigger because Todd Gurley at this point in his career, he's not commanded much money. Even if they did sign Todd Gurley, he wouldn't ruin their salary cap structure the way Aaron Jones would. Aaron Jones, the running back from Green Bay, hell of a running back. Probably the best one on the market. Kyle Shanahan is not afraid to target the best running back on the market. I don't know why. His dad didn't do that stuff. They have Bobby Turner, who's the best at developing undrafted free agents. Every year they have good undrafted free agent. But Kyle's like, no, I want to make Jerick McKinnon the highest paid running back in the league. I want to make Jerick McKinnon's dreams come true. I want to make Tevin Coleman's dreams come true. Maybe he wants to make Aaron Jones the first running back ever to get a $100 million contract. I don't know. It could happen. So he wanted Le'Veon Bell the other year. It makes me nervous. Don't do it. Aaron Jones is a stud. I've heard him talk about Aaron Jones. He has the utmost respect. Him and Robert Saleh. Don't do it.
You know what's funny, Grant? I think Kyle makes himself look bad where he's like, I'm going to give money to these running backs, Cohn and McKinnon. I'm interested in all these players. But he makes himself look bad when he gets those undrafted, low-end cost running backs that look amazing. It's like, what are you doing? Spending all this money in cash.
These guys are better than the ones you handpicked and gave a fortune.
Dude.
How? Yeah.
And that's why I'm like, even though like you might be right, Gurley's probably going to cost for like $2 or $3 million, but even still, like, don't even waste the little bit of money you have or even time, dude. Just no.
He's got one leg. Todd Gurley. That guy's been bad for quite a long time. All right. Let's stay with free agency. One free agent the 49ers will regret not re-signing. Niners have a lot of impending free agents. A lot of them aren't going to come back. The Niners have to be very selective. Which one do you think they're going to let go and regret, and why?
I think about the one I put when I wrote this about a week ago or so. Well, when I wrote about this, I picked Kendrick Bourne. I know Trent Williams would be one that they could probably see only because, the same thing that you wrote, Grant. I could see Daniel Brunskill being a left tackle too, and maybe Brunskill's having a bad stretch, and all of a sudden it's like, man, we should have just paid Trent. like that short-term thing. But to me, I'm thinking that the player that we're regret not re-signing in a way will be Kendrick Bourne. Not just basically because he's more than just production. You know, he's a reliable wide receiver, no matter who the quarterback was out there. And that was pretty much, you know, a revolving door at that position with Beathard, Mullins, and Garoppolo. And it's like, no matter who was back there, you know, there was Bourne to make that efficient, that clutch catch. You know, he's just dependable. You know, he's someone that's easy to have that connection with. And not just there. What about the locker room standpoint? You know, how much high on the totem pole Kyle Shanahan has held Kendrick Bourne. I mean, he said like this guy is like, kind of reminds me of my son in a way. That's how much like the two got close, and just the way that Bourne relates to other teammates and more in the locker room. And it's more than just like locker room teammates. It's just like everyone just vibes off him, and he's someone with tenure. So I think that's someone that if he's gone, for all the tenured players, they miss him. You know, not specifically so much the impact. You know, I'm sure they'll miss out away that efficiency, but I just think just for the way his role is on the team.
Yeah, that's the guy that I was going to go with, was Kendrick Bourne as well. You know, he's their top red zone receiver, and so losing him, that's going to could possibly hinder the offense if they don't find somebody to take over that role that can actually, if he's not back in 2021. Because, you know, yeah, he usually will have 1 or 2 games a season where he struggles with catching the ball, but other than that, he's really solid. And he's the one guy of the receiving corps, not only the catching, but he's the one guy that's always there. He's the one guy that hasn't been hurt and isn't missing time as a result of injury. So that consistency of being able to play, the ability to make the plays in the red zone and come up with big catches when it's needed, they'd really miss that if they don't have him back next year.
I think Kerry Hyder would be one they would regret. And I know I said, I think last week that he would be my guy for possibly regressing, just because I thought he was very, very good last year. And I don't know if he can repeat that, but I think he's still important to this defense because D Ford, health is a question mark if he's even on the team next year. Nick Bosa, we're not sure if he'll be 100% when he first comes back. He'll be great when he's on the field, but we don't know how well he'll recover, at least at the start of the year. And then you have a bunch of free agents behind those guys, whether you bring them back. So they need Hyder. He can play all 3 downs. He allows Armstead to slide in more, which is where he's much better. And they need some bodies. And I think Hyder is healthy, at least last year, and he provides depth and would be able to play on either side, depending on how Bose is feeling, how Eric Armstead is defending. And I think they need that third defensive end.
Those are really good choices. I was originally going to go with Kendrick Bourne, although I don't think they should resign him. It's just that they're going to miss him because the guys in front of him miss games and he doesn't. And when those guys are out and it's time for Kendrick Bourne to be the starter for a month, he won't be there. So they will miss him, I think. But they're in a tough spot. What are you going to do? Kerry Hyder's another one. If they let him go, they're going to miss him. But he might be expensive. I mean, DNs that get 8.5 sacks sometimes get $85 million the next year or close to it just because they did that. I don't know. They may not be able to bring him back. I'm thinking a guy that they could bring back and might just let go because they think he's done, but maybe tougher to replace than they realize is K'Wan Williams. He's almost 30, and he's not a priority for them. Is he a priority for anyone? But they may be able to bring him back on a reasonable deal and say, you know what, we're just going to go another direction. Why don't you go to New York with Robert Saleh? And he really is the only playmaker in their secondary, or one of only him and Jason Verrett. As good as Jimmy Ward is, that's not what he does. He's not a big playmaker guy. He doesn't blitz and get sacks. He doesn't turn the ball over. That's what K'Wan does. And he does. He's a cheap playmaker. He's got to be the cheapest playmaker in the league or the cheapest vet playmaker. So though I think they'll regret not re-signing him because they could. I guess Kyle Juszczyk would fill in the same boat, but I think they're going to bring Kyle Juszczyk back. So moving on, what do you think the biggest mistake the Niners can make in the draft is? Obviously, they can make some really stupid mistakes like not turning in their pick, which has happened before. I think the Vikings did that when I was
What?
But like well-intentioned, they scouted, did their homework, they just got it wrong mistake. What do you think that is?
I haven't finished at least analyzing every first round pick is what I think.
How dare you?
Yeah, I know.
Lazy.
My bad.
Oh my God.
But I just think that if they pick, I don't like any of the defensive linemen, at least at 12. So unless they trade back far, I think it would be a mistake to pick one of those guys. I know Kwity Paye is liked by a lot of people, but I just don't think he fits with it the Niners, as long as Eric Armstead is on the team, I think they kind of play a similar role where they're kind of both an edge rusher, like a tweener, I guess is what you would call him. So I think picking a defensive lineman in the first round at 12. If they trade back, go ahead. Pay, Rousseau, anyone I think would provide great value. But at that 12 pick, I like picking the best guy available, and I think that'd be a corner or a tackle.
Uh-oh, Jack timed out. We'll give Jack a second. Go ahead, Jose.
Jack's like, if I can't see you, you can't see me. Kind of deal right there. How about the one that you mentioned a couple weeks ago or however long ago, Grant? And it's because I think it's serious ever since you put it in my head. Mac Jones, drafting Mac Jones at 12. That's a little too high for my taste. Let him see if he can fall, maybe, because I can see him going at 12 because for the exact same reason that Chris Sims and you have said, especially weeks ago, about, oh, look, he's a better Kirk Cousins. He's definitely the type of quarterback that Kyle dreams of. It's the reason why Kyle was trying to hold out for a whole season, passed on Watson, all these other young studs, just so he can have that type of model quarterback. So I think that's one they can really like make a mistake on, just standing pat and just I wouldn't like it at 12, not at 12, maybe later.
Yeah, I'm with you. If they took Mac Jones at 12, I wouldn't like that. And if they took a defensive end if they took another defensive lineman in round 1, I don't care who he is, how good he's supposed to be, that would be a big mistake. Also, other ones like if they somehow don't draft a quarterback this year, if they do that or wait until day 3 or something, that would be a huge mistake because we just assume they're going to draft a quarterback. They've only drafted one since they got here, and it was the end of round 3. Like, what if they wait really long? What if they try to push this down the road? That would be a huge mistake. Jack, what do you think the biggest mistake the Niners can make in the draft is?
The biggest mistake, and I kind of mentioned this a few days ago, is not taking a quarterback. If Justin Fields or Mac Jones is sitting there at number 12, they've got to take one of those two guys. So if they pass up either of them, I think it's a mistake because I think past that point, they're going to have a hard time getting a quarterback that can come in and really start for them or take that role that we're hoping that they fill this year.
Okay. All right. Now let's look at the other side of it. The smartest thing you think the Niners can do in this draft. What will be your little tip to give to John Lynch?
Yeah. What I was thinking was if they could trade back to pick up another pick, if they can maybe move back one spot, say from 12 to 13, to kind of do like they did last year and get another second round pick at the top of the second round that they can then use to trade back up into the end of the first, that would be the best way to go. Say they're sitting there at 12 and Rashawn Slater sitting there on the board still. If they could trade back just one spot, pick up a second round pick, and then take Slater from Northwestern at that 13th pick and solve their position, their interior O-line issue, and then maybe trade back up into the end of the second round to get a guy like Kellen Mond or maybe even early in the second round, have it a little bit earlier pick in the second round where they can get Trask. That would be the way to go.
Trade Jimmy Garoppolo because then at that point I think his market's going to be higher than it's been since all off season. Especially if you trade him on day 2 or even 3 at some point, because then at that point, all the lower teams that were probably, or even mid-tier teams, you could say, that were looking for those young players to fall to them, and they missed out. And it's like, great, now what are we going to do? What do we do now? 49, here's John Lynch. Hey, I have a Jimmy Garoppolo here for sale. You want him? So, hey, it's going to cost you today's pick at some point. So I think that's at some point you can do it, and that you get him there. Then boom. You got salary cap space, and I know free agency's gone, but at least you can still have that. You're still not comfortable to pay him at that rate, and then now you can go for that rookie quarterback that you so wanted to. But I think the only way that happens if like someone falls to them in round 1 or they get someone in round 2. That would be a lot of pieces have to fall in the right places here. But if they are able to do that, then a smart thing would be to get Garoppolo there because I think you can get more for him at that point during the draft than you can at any other point in the offseason.
I think the smartest thing is to draft a bully offensive lineman, and I mean that by one. I know Kyle loves his agile offensive lineman that can go out and get that block.
Opposite of Mike Mavishi.
Yeah, I want like a Quinn Miners from Wisconsin Whitewater, I believe is where he's from, or a Rashawn Slater if they can get him in the first round. I don't even think he'll be there at 12. So if he's not there, I like Vera Tucker. He's growing on me. Darisaw in the mid rounds where Miners is. There's a lot of guys I think I like and I think would fit. So I just think 2 offensive linemen in this draft, and one of them has to be a mauling right guard because I think they just need that in this offense. I know it doesn't fit, but I think it would help this offense a lot.
2 offensive linemen is a really brilliant strategy. I like it. No one's thrown that out. And if I remember correctly, when Trent Baalke first became the Niners GM, this was back before he lost his mind and just was infatuated with drafting injured players. The first thing he did to solidify the team was draft 2 offensive linemen. He drafted Anthony Davis. He drafted Mike Upati, and that worked until Anthony Davis lost his mind. Anthony, I'm sorry if you didn't lose your mind, but whatever. You left. So it worked. It can work. And this is an offensive line that needs more than one position upgraded. Mm-hmm. That's really clever. I would say kind of the opposite of what Jack said, but coming to the same conclusion. If Mac Jones or Justin Fields drops to 12, I would leverage him for a trade down. I would, and that now you get 2 first-round picks and you can get those 2 offensive linemen. And the reason I feel comfortable with that, I like Mac Jones. I don't like Justin Fields as much, but I really like the quarterbacks who are getting projected to go in round 2 even more. Kellen Mond, Kyle Trask. I'm really comfortable with them. I think they can succeed and start right away. So you could leverage those guys if they drop, trade down, get 2 offensive linemen in round 1, or a corner if you didn't take any of those in free agency, and get a starter in round 2 in Trask or Mond. Although now that Chris Sims is talking about him, it seems like Mond might go round 1 in the Jordan Love range. Who knows? So I think that's the smartest thing. I like the trade down, get the 2 offensive linemen. That's clever. But if they get the right quarterback and it all works out, I'm not gonna knock them. And I don't really know who it is. Alejandro has a little smart scenario. He says trade McGlinchey in 2022 second rounder for Orlando Brown and draft Rashawn Slater to compete for right tackle with Brunskill. Loser is starting right guard. Your thoughts, real quick.
I think you only do that. Go ahead, Maverick.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think you'd have to add another pick just to include McGlinchey in the trade. But I think a 2022 2021 second round pick could get Brown, I think. And I love Slater, so if he's there, I'd take him in a heartbeat.
Yeah, I think you only take that if you already have Slater on board. Like you already drafted Slater. Now, all right, cool. Now McGlinchey later, we probably can go upgrade for Brown. So this is the same concept you guys were just saying about that 2 offensive linemen. It's just now you're getting the more immediate cap hit within the year or 2, and at least the more proven player. So I don't think it's a bad choice. I think I'd rather just do the grooming for the 2 offensive linemen, especially the way Grant describes it. You want to leverage it if that's the route you want to go. At least that way, cost control, and then boom.
Well, the problem with Orlando Brown is you're just going to end up in the same situation you are with Trent Williams, where you're going to have to give him $24-25 million a year, and he'd be
more worth it.
Yeah, he's younger, but
you could franchise him though, unless you're promising him. So.
It's clever. Alejandro, I hadn't considered it. I'm not going to dismiss it. It's something to think about. If Orlando Brown wants out, he's definitely an upgrade over Mike McGlinchey, and that's a clever way of getting that without having to spend a first-round pick on the position. So I'll think about it. I'll get back to you.
Would they be able to use the 5th-round option on Brown?
No, I think he's on his last year.
He wasn't a first-round pick.
He was not a first-round pick. So no.
I know he's on his last year of his deal.
You'd have to tag him.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So you're putting yourself in the Trent Williams situation. It's tough. Good question. We got one more question from Maitland Eagle, and we'll knock that out real quick. Hold on. Rumors say that Niners are trading up 1 spot to 11. Which rumors? Who's got the 11th pick? I know Dallas has 10.
I haven't heard that rumor.
Rumors, huh? He said he spent $4, so it must be true. Dang.
Rumors.
Isn't the Giants? Aren't the Giants? Yeah.
The Giants, huh? Well, okay. That's something we'll keep that in mind. All right. Final topic. And I think, all right, let's just get into it. Okay. So we're talking about, should the Niners go to Teddy Bridgewater? Should they do Alex Smith? Every quarterback, Sam Darnold, every freaking quarterback, Andy Dalton, Cam Newton. So, I mean, isn't it fair to at least discuss Colin Kaepernick? I don't know how much money he would want to play football. He did struggle his last 2 years. He played for Jeep Chris and Chip Kelly. I mean, he has an excuse. This team is different. He was good at one point. He hasn't played in 4 years. I don't know what he would want, but he probably can't even ask for that much money. assuming he's at the same price point as Cam Newton, should the Niners sign Colin Kaepernick? Whoever wants to go first is welcome to.
I'll go ahead and go first. I mean, yeah, okay. I really wish they hadn't taken they had signed and kept Colin Kaepernick back in 2017. I think they could have done a lot better with him than what they did with by letting him go and bringing in Hoyer. I think he would have been a much better route to go than the direction that they took. Bringing him back now, that's a little bit of a stretch, I think, just because he's been gone for so long. I don't know if there's any quarterback that's been out of the league for 3 or 4 years that's ever come back and be able to play. So that's the only thing that kind of holds me back on Kaepernick. You just haven't seen him for 4 years, and you don't know where he is with his game and if he could even step in and play. Wouldn't be a bad deal if you sign him to a minimum deal and bring him into camp and see what he can do.
Yeah, I think I'm with Jack. I thought it was pretty ludicrous that they dropped him as soon as Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch took over. It's like, great, we're running out Brian Hoyer. Like, what? I don't know. I guess they just like, all right, we're just gonna cut. They're just gonna cut all the ties and just wash everything of the previous regime, I guess. But like Jack said, it wouldn't hurt. I mean, I personally don't think I'd advocate it, and I love Colin Kaepernick. That was one of the first articles I ever wrote as a writer when he, did all that 4 or 5 years ago. So, I don't see why not. You wouldn't. I just wouldn't have any expectation of him because he's been gone for so long. Not to say he couldn't still be somewhat sufficient or even be a backup role, but I mean, I just don't really see what he's going to be able to do at this point. I know there's a lot of supporters like let's give him a job and stuff like that. And, considering that you got Josh McCown getting a job out there for who's on and off again, retirement, and all these other washed up players. Why not get him and bring him to camp and just see what's up? I just don't think the 49ers are inclined, and if they didn't keep him back then, why would they even sniff him now?
Jose, I don't know how you got Josh McCown because that's exactly who I was going to throw out as my example of guys that are on practice squads, and especially last year with veterans that are on practice squads where you can have guys. I've said what I've said about Cap. I think he is – who knows without the last couple of years playing, but I still think skill-wise he would be a top 64 quarterback in the NFL, and every team needs a starter and a backup, so I think he would be worthy of a team. I don't know if the Niners would want to do that just because of the history or whatever. I would give Kaepernick a contract as long as he's willing to, contract-wise, as long as he's not expecting Dak Prescott money, I think it'd be worthy of a flyer, but who knows? I think he's worth it, but I guess some people don't.
I think you can make an argument in favor of it. Like, I always felt he was better than Cam Newton. I mean, when he was playing, he was better than Andy Dalton. He was better than Andy Dalton. Did he not improve? No, he didn't improve. But if you're just comparing him to the other guys, like at the bottom of off the scrap heap that you can get for presumably cheap, he's as interesting and accomplished and young as probably any of them. And in that sense, it would be really cool to have him on the team. The reason I'm going to say no is I think it's time for the Niners to stop trading for quarterbacks or signing quarterbacks. Draft one. Mm-hmm. Draft a freaking quarterback. They haven't drafted one since 2017, which is unreal. They just got to bring a young guy. As Joe Montana said yesterday when I had him one-on-one, humble brag. He said, can they just bring in a young guy, draft a guy? And it seems like so simple when he said it. Yeah. Why don't you just try? They haven't even tried. Josh Rosen is interesting. He's someone they can develop. They can put him on the practice squad. They need to draft a quarterback. And Colin Kaepernick, it's terrible what happened to him. And it's tragic in a lot of ways. And I would love him to get another opportunity. He's still young. He still has a future. Not on the Niners. Draft a guy. Don't bring in Sam Darnold or anyone like that and move on from Jimmy Garoppolo. It's time to bring in someone who's like 22. I'm cool with that. So anyway, that's nothing personal against Kaepernick. I hope he gets a job somewhere. That's all we got. People in there saying, screw me, I'm going there. All right, well, I figured I was going to take the comments there with that topic, but I think we handled that well. Thank you, everyone, for indulging me on that one. And,
does anyone off the top of their head who the red zone leader targets or touchdowns was this season? Because I remember before the season we had this conversation, who's going to be like the Kendrick Bourne for the red zone for 2019 and 2020. Like, we never followed up with that. We never followed up with that. I think some of us said Dwelly, Kittle. I think even someone mentioned Debo. I don't remember who I mentioned. I think I mentioned Debo or Kittle.
All right,
I don't know who I
now.
said, but I know it was wrong. So
I'll get it for you right now. Hold on.
I can't even remember how many red zone targets either in terms of just passing, because I felt like a lot of times they were obviously going to run it.
Okay, I got it. So in terms of who led the team in catches in the red zone and touchdowns in the red zone. Okay.
Jordan Reed.
No. Okay, you're wrong. Okay, what are your guesses? What are your guesses? Who is the Niners' leading red zone receiver in catches and touchdowns? Maverick already lost.
Well, fine. That was my real guess. I was just
okay. So Maverick gets a second guess because he blurted out the wrong one.
Wow.
well, no. I won't guess. I'll do what you do during trivia.
Is it? You cheat! Oh yeah, that's right.
Look off to the side.
I got a reputation, Maverick. I can't be losing these things. No,
yeah, Cheetah. Yeah, Cheetah Grant.
Who is it?
Wilson?
Who? No, receiver. No, it's not.
Oh, receiver. I thought you just meant overall person.
No, receiver. Catches and touchdown catches.
Ayuk.
Yeah, I was trying to overthink it. I was like,
14 targets, 9 catches, 5 touchdowns, 7 first downs. Ayuk is going to have a monster year next year because Kyle doesn't call plays for George Kittle and Debo down there. Ayuk is the guy.
On Ayuk's touchdown against Dallas, just watch the right side of the offensive line, please. That 1 yard or that 2 yard touchdown. Just watch the right side of the line on that play. I know it went to the left.
Is it just execution at its finest, synchronicity, all of it?
Just watch the right side of the line on that catch he goes to the left on. Just do it.
Nice. Okay, I will. All right, guys, that's the end of the All 49ers Roundtable for today. Tomorrow is for breakfast, 9:30. Mav, Nick, and I are going to do a little trivia and a little extra roundtable discussion, although it's triangular with 3 of us, but we'll make it work. See you tomorrow morning. I'll be back tonight.